Congrats on securing a compliance leadership role in your organization. Now it's important to start thinking about what steps you need to take in order to make sure that you are successful on your role. There are 3 things that I would recommend to you to start doing today to ensure that you are fully settled on your role. In order to make these steps memorable, I have broken them down into 3 letters that serve as the word or as the acronym MAP. We're going to start with the letter M. The letter M stands for modeling your stakeholders. And what that really just means is identifying who your key stakeholders are, engaging with them to understand how you are going to be collaborating with them to ensure effective partnership. When it comes to modeling stakeholders, it's important to think about the 3 buckets. And I would add one bonus one that your stakeholders typically belong to. The first categories are the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries are typically the group or team that benefit from your data privacy program in a way that moves their own task and deliverables forward. An example is your retention policy that you develop within your team could be helpful, or the engineering team, to determine how long they want to store certain types of data in their environment. The second category of stakeholders that you want to consider are the intersectors. The intersectors are typically the stakeholders that have multiple overlaps with the work that you're doing. An example of these folks are the legal team or the privacy legal team. You may have come across this question in an interview where you were asked, what's the difference between the role or responsibility of the compliance team and the privacy legal team? If you would like to learn more about that, then leave a note in the comment section and I'll be sure to do a video on that for you. The intersectors are very important to understand because then it allows you to identify where there could be duplicative tasks so that you're level setting clear expectations with that team. The third category of stakeholder groups that you want to be aware of are what I like to call the bystanders. These are people who are not necessarily directly impacted by your program. However, it's still important that you are initiating relationships with them because while they might not be impacted by your program in the current state, there could be potential opportunities where they could be impacted by your program. Now, to the bonus group of stakeholders that I wanted to include here, I like to call them your champions or your allies. These are the people that over time you've added value to, and they have now become your advocates, and they would champion your data privacy program. Typically, you don't have this category at the start of your program. You don't necessarily have champions at the initial phase of your program, but over time, you start to see many of these other categories like the beneficiaries, the intersectors, or even the bystanders upgrade to become your advocates, or if you like to call them your champions. I'll give you an example of where a beneficiary group then became a champion for the data privacy program that I led in a big tech firm. I was working with the privacy engineering team that needed to implement certain privacy requirements in order to ensure that products were ethical as they were deployed. And while they were beneficiaries at the beginning, we had a lot of inquiries coming in from the assessors that needed to ensure that this team was actually embodying all of the privacy regulatory requirements within the specific framework that was provided by the auditors. And over time, they started to recognize that based off of the value that we were providing to them, it allowed them to showcase defensibility in front of the assessors and the external auditors, which ended up allowing to improve their roadmap and ensuring that their work was more effectively established within the organization. And in no time, they then became our allies because they started to recognize the value that our team was adding. One mistake that many leaders make at the beginning is they want to force people to become their allies when they haven't added value to their organization. It's important to be realistic about each of these different categories and model all of your different stakeholders to these categories, and then aim to add value, aim to collaborate responsibly with them, and then watch as the relationship grows and upscales. It's important to continue to nurture these stakeholder relationships to ensure that you can scale them to the place where they now become your advocates. Let's talk about the next letter in the acronym, letter A. That means to assess your current state. When you start to lead a new organization, it's important that you understand the current state of the organization. The mistakes that a lot of leaders make is that they want to bring their previous experience or methodologies that they've used in a separate organization and bring that into this new organization. And many times it just doesn't work. So it's important that you're understanding your current state from these three pillars: people, process, and technology. The reason why it's important to understand people is that when you understand people, you understand the culture. You understand the culture, it's easier for you to make impact. One thing I have noticed is that whatever strategy that you're bringing in, if you do not align that strategy to the culture of the organization, like they say, the culture of that organization is going to eat your strategy for breakfast. Keep that in mind. The second pillar that you want to understand is the pillar that I like to call process. The reason why it's important to understand processes is because it allows you to identify practical gaps. The third pillar that you need to understand when it comes to assessing current state is understanding the technology. Now, hold on. That doesn't mean that you have to be extremely technical. I'm not asking you to go be a software engineer right now, or a systems engineer. But it's important to understand the technology as it relates to your work. For example, if you are going to be recommending encryption for that organization, and that organization stores data in systems that does not support encryption, then you're not going to be listened to. So you must understand what are the capabilities of the system relative to the policies that you're providing to them. That way you can help make better recommendations and establish trust within the organization. The third step that you want to take here is key, providing metrics. These metrics are not necessarily the ones that you want to report outwardly right now. These are metrics that you want to capture for yourself. These are metrics that you want to measure yourself against. Remember that the only way that you can demonstrate results or demonstrate success on your new role is being able to identify metrics and being able to report those metrics succinctly. So what does that look like practically? As you evaluate the culture of the people and as you evaluate the current state, think about the metrics that would allow you to get quick wins. An example of a quick win could look something like this. You have just established a data retention policy and your metric could be around adoption. You could establish a dashboard, for example, that allows you to evaluate how many people are opening that policy, maybe on the portal, how much time people are spending, how much inquiries are coming to your team based off of the content of that document or the policy, and how much of those policies are being incorporated into operational processes around the organization or across teams that you're partnering with. Those types of metrics allow you to gain quick wins once you get on the roll. I hope this was helpful. I'd love to learn about steps that you have taken in your new role or existing role to achieve success. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.